Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is while you're watching this, and welcome to my 25,000 mile review of my Yamaha Tracer 9, not the GT version, the standard version. Now I'm only going to be covering things that I've noticed since the 10,000 mile review that I did, so if you haven't seen that already, take a look because this is going to be additional rather than a comprehensive review. Now the first thing is, the bike does get buzzy. Although it's a 3-cylinder engine, it does give you some quite high vibrations through the handlebars when you're doing high mileages and also through the foot pegs. Now, as I'm well comfortable in the BBC Radio 4 demographic, you may not feel this, but I do. So after a while, at 60-70 miles an hour, you will start to feel a little bit of tingly hands, tingly feet and possibly numb fingers and toes. I've already covered the finishes in the first film, but also if you use the mirror stalks for a RAM mount system for a camera, you may find that you have to tighten it up on a couple of occasions. Unfortunately, the 17mm spanner you need isn't in the bike toolkit. Why? But anyway, chuck an adjustable in your toolkit. I was promised an extra 6 inches for my tool and I ended up with this. But it's not a bad thing to chuck in your toolkit if you've put any accessories on the bike that you might need to tighten up the fixes on. Shown here is the average fuel consumption. This is according to the bike. Now, I did a study on average fuel consumption, actual speed versus indicated speed, and actual distance versus indicated distance. If you want to find out more about that, have a click on the card in the top left hand side. I've covered the seat before. You're looking at about 6 to 8 hours rather than mileage because I like twisty back roads where the speeds can be quite low. So if you're blatting along at 60-70 miles an hour average, you're going to do more miles, but I do find it more convenient to mention things in terms of hours rather than miles. Talking of distance, even the non-GT, which my bike is, Tracer 900, has a cruise control. However, if you press the cruise control button and you get a flashing indicator like this, then it's time to have a look at the clutch, front brake and rear brake switches. This means that one or more of them has actually locked on or partially on and is causing a false signal. Now, it's normally me that would tell somebody they've got a light out to the rear, but a chap pulled up alongside me when I'd stopped and said, "Do you know your brake lights seem to be jammed on?" And he was right. The front brake light switch was getting a bit sticky. Quick lubrication with GT85 sorted that out, and also that was the reason why the cruise control light was flickering rather than staying on. I couldn't engage cruise control at this point, not that I was going to anyway, but there you go. But it is something to have a look at. However, do not think it's a good idea to undo the screw that holds the brake light switch in. The reason being, Yamaha have dumped a load of thread lock on this and you might actually shear the bolt. Even dealers do this. So just give it a quick squib, you're probably going to be okay. If it's really playing up, then yeah, you might need to shove it into a dealer for a quick look-see. A rather less amusing thing are the indicators. They stick out and they've got a nice little rubber mount on, and you get about 10 goes at knocking these off, swearing and cursing, trying to reseat them before the bracket snaps. Very annoying, very poor design. The indicators should be somewhere where you can't easily knock them off, so I tried gluing it. As it's Japanese plastic, it does not respond to any glue, so I got my lock wiring kit out, a pin vise with a 1mm drill in, chucked a couple of holes in, lock wired it all up, and you can see the residue of the glue here. So that should be just buy a new bracket, shouldn't it? Well, the indicator bracket actually extends to both sides of the bike via the position lights, and you can actually get these, and they are quite easy to buy if you've got 1,200 quid in your pocket. Really, Yamaha, don't take the sort this out, make it so that things that can be knocked off easily and refitted and may break can be cheaply and easily replaced. Now, it's not only the position lights and indicators. If one of your headlights goes, maybe due to a stone being flicked up, you're looking at the thick end of 800 quid. Again, why can't the individual lights be replaced? Because it's done as a sub-assembly and it's cheaper that way in the manufacturing. This is also a reason why bikes get written off and insurance prices go up, because you cannot easily fix a fairly light bit of front end damage. See also the one where I hit the deer card in the top corner. So what I did, I bought these little headlight grills. It will pass an MOT with these grills in place, but riding at night you've effectively got a series of dots of light in front of you rather than a proper headlight. But you know, sticking those on, if I do ride at night in winter, popping her off and taking the risk is a bit better than a stupidly massive bill. Anyway, moving on to the instruments, the clock does keep remarkably good time. The dealer set this when I got the bike. All I've done is change the hours for British Summertime or GMT, and it's kept pretty much perfect time. However, it's also the only instrument that will lose itself if the battery is disconnected. Why? Don't know. Nothing else does. All the trip meters and everything else that will reset on my various other bike will retain the memory, but the clock won't. Something I didn't mention in the 10,000 mile review, because there's quite a lot to go through on that, are these service indicators. You get oil, which is only done by a Yamaha dealer, interval 1, interval 2. You can reset interval 1 and interval 2 yourself, so it might be front and rear tyres or whatever else you fancy using for, even trip meters if it comes to it, but you can reset them yourself. Talking of trips, you get two. I use one for fuel and one for actual trips, and if you do 10,000 miles it will actually roll over, so if you're doing an iron butt or something like that, just be aware that you might have to record your mileage at the start and the finish rather than just use the trip. Now, something I find on the Tracer is how top heavy it is. I've got a 411 Himalayan that doesn't weigh much less than the Tracer, but the centre of gravity seems to be around about the floor or possibly a foot under it on the Himalayan. On the Tracer, it seems to be in the troposphere, probably due to the position of the fuel tank, which means the airbox is going to be buried under it, and of course the throttle bodies. Now, something to be aware of about the throttle bodies et al. Is that there has been a recall on a number of Tracers. Well, I say Tracers, CP3 and 4 engines, and maybe CP2s, but I've not heard of them. About 110,000 of them have been recalled to have the throttle position sensors replaced. So if you're looking at getting a, well, I don't know, 2022, possibly 2 years either side of it, Tracer, just see if it's had a recall and if the recall has been done. By the way, on my 900 Hornet, the TPS is visible. It's going to take me longer to get enough lubricant into the clip to disconnect it than it would be to replace the TPS. Poor design, Yamaha. When it comes to consumables, the T32 front and rear tyres, you're probably going to be looking at about 8,000 to a rear, 10,000 to a front. Chain and sprockets, you're looking at 12,000 plus miles. And when it comes to brake pads, now admittedly, I'm an advanced rider. I don't tend to use my brakes that often, and I'm still on the original pads. So these seem to be pretty good. Now, when it comes to servicing costs at a main dealer, the initial 600 mile service, you're looking at a couple of £100. The 6,000 miles, what I'd call an intermediate service, you're looking at about 250. 12,000 minor service, 450, 18,000, again another intermediate, 250, and the 24,000 mile service, which does include a valve check, is going to set about £900. Then that's if there aren't any shims needed in the valve. So bear that in mind if you are going to be buying a Tracer 9. One very, very important thing about the Tracers and many other bikes that have got 101 sensors on them that all feed into an ECU. If you chuck the bike on a centre stand or a paddock stand and put it in gear and let the rear wheel spin, which some people do to lubricate the chains, after a while you may be getting an engine warning light coming on. At a dealer, this is going to set you back 50 quid to turn it off. You might go, oh, dealers are ripping me off, but you've got to look at it. They've got to pay their staff, they've got to pay for the branding in the workshop, they've got to pay for the instrumentation to allow them to reset this, and it's basically you that's been chucking it in gear and letting it run. So think about that before you whinge about dealers. Right, to sum up, the Tracer 9, I've had it 3 years, 25,000 miles, and it's going. It's a lovely bike, don't get me wrong. I'm a high mileage rider compared to most people in the UK these days, and it's not grown on me. I feel I've given myself a fair enough go to get used to the bike. I've had to fit quite a few accessories to it, and no, I'm afraid I've not gelled with it. The performance is great. I mean, it'll pull your arms off in acceleration and everything like that. The fuel economy is pretty good. I'm going to lose a lot of money on this. The trade-in value is about £5,000 compared to the $12,000 I paid for it 3 years ago. But it's just not right for me. So anyway, I'm going to be getting something else, and when I've got 10,000 miles on the new bike, you'll be getting another review. So everybody watching, thank you very much for sticking to the end. Safe riding. Tatty bye for now.